Okay, so the continuation of my discussion on Lady Macbeth and the traditional gender and sexual norms during Elizabethan England. A good Christian wife and mother is someone who does good wifely duties, takes bear and rear children, and also provides. They also say also does housework. So when we meet Lady Macbeth, she turns her home into a crime scene, and she actually describes it as like almost like a battlefield, like her rampants, like it's like she's going to do battle there. And the only child that exists is that exists in her fantasy about committing infanticide. And also, when Macbeth comes home, instead of approaching him with, I guess, more feminine energy, she accosts him with masculine energy. And a good Christian wife, she gives like gentle. She's supposed to give advice, and she doesn't. It's not in a forceful way. She's supposed to be a help to her husband. Actually, there's two analogies where one, she is just the wife is described as a crown, so she's an ornament. She is a status symbol. She symbolizes the achievement of the husband. And the other analogy is the head body analogy, where the husband is the head, so he leads and commands, and the wife is the body, where she follows and comply. What else? So the wife basically is supposed to submit, and the husband is supposed to be the more domineering one. That's a good question, wife. And so, according to that description, Lady Macbeth is not a good Christian wife, but does that say that she's also not a devoted wife? Lady Macbeth is willing to do basically anything for Macbeth to realize his goal to become king. So she she does the incantation in the beginning where she wants to unsex herself. What is that? Lady Macbeth wants to assume characteristics or personality that is unnatural to her, and she wants to enable to like steal herself in order to convince Macbeth, and to also have the courage to commit, or at least make it possible for regicide to happen in their home. So I would argue that Lady Macbeth is a devoted wife and a misguided wife, because she did all this for Macbeth to realize his ambitions, but she didn't account for how much she'll feel guilty and remorseful about her actions. Basically, Lady Macbeth is the more excitable one, and Macbeth is the more calm one. And so when everything is said and done, it's like she didn't the end goal was for him to be king, but she didn't know how to prepare herself and Macbeth for the fallout of their actions. Sorry, I got cut off earlier. So with a domineering feminine, that means the masculine is submissive. And so according to my sources, that's thought of as like a twin sin. Like they're both considered evil and they both are sins and they're both seen as ungodly. And so, and if the feminine is out of order, like I stated earlier, then the natural order of things is disruptive. And so it's like everything is out of whack if the feminine is out of control. And when the feminine is out of control, the public takes it upon itself to then punish the feminine. So during this time, there's a lot of ducking, and there's a lot of, if a woman was accused of being a scold or a shrew or a harlot, she was basically publicly shamed. And then the husband is in turn called a cuckold, and he's publicly shamed as well. What else? So basically, Lady Macbeth is seen as this dominating female, and Macbeth being this submissive male. I should have brought me some water. My throat dry. Trying to think what else. And during this time, Europe, Elizabethan England also have these thoughts on the ambitious female that also gets grouped into the image of the dominating female. That the ambitious wife basically only uses her husband to prepare herself to fulfill her desires. But in the case of Lady Macbeth, she is ambitious for Macbeth himself. And so she takes control of planning the regicide. I think I'm saying that right. And kind of pushes him to this is the only way to achieve his goal of becoming king. So and also when she did that incantation, when we first meet her, when she prayed to Hecate, the goddess of witchcraft, she also aligned herself with witches. And witches had this also maternal image associated with them, where they will have an extra teat, so to feed Satan's familiars. The witches, or the people usually accused of witchcraft, were usually women, older women for being bad mothers, and young women for committing infanticide. And basically these were women who did not conform to societal norms, and so they were punished for that. because I believe at this time they was trying to unify the country under Christianity. So anything that opposed that, they deemed it as evil and demonic. So they had to get them under control. What else? In the case of the play, only Lady Macbeth is alluded to in the maternal image. The Weird sisters were not. So far, Lady Macbeth is seen as an ambitious wife, a unchristian mother and wife, a usurping wife, well, and also the fact that she would try to take on masculine characteristics and also align herself with witchcraft. She's an unnatural woman, and she'll also be considered an evil woman because she did conspire to and help Macbeth commit murder. But I'm arguing that she did commit murder. She did all those things, and that you can argue that she's immoral. But I'm arguing that basically she assumed those characteristics. She did all this for the benefit of Macbeth and only Macbeth, because those later scenes in Act 5 where she them sleepwalking scenes show her true nature, that the cruelty and the domineering and the emasculating and the very aggressive and violent, and the violence that she exhibited early in the play, that's not really her. She did that because, because someone had to have, because all I'd say is when Macbeth is passive, she is the active one. And so, because Macbeth is only active in battle when he needs to be. So he's masculine when he needs to be. And Lady Macbeth, we never see her true nature, but we have maybe a glimpse of who she maybe is on a day-to-day during those sleepwalking scenes, because she's racked with guilt. Well, we have a hint at who she maybe really is, because she's racked with guilt and remorse. She's guilty. She has a guilty conscience. And so in those sleepwalking scenes, her conscience slips out, and we see how human she is. There was a scene at the banquet after Macbeth killed Banquo and his ghost appears, that in that moment he is paranoid, because so in that moment he is passive, he is not active, he is not exhibiting masculine behavior. So in that moment when he is in distress, Lady Macbeth steps up and she assumes the more masculine qualities in order to save him. So that's the last time we see Lady Macbeth have an active role in the play. and is like basically in cahoots with Macbeth because after killing King Duncan, Macbeth doesn't include Lady Macbeth in any of his plans. She did not even know that he planned to kill Banquo. And so we see the lack of communication. We see almost like he shuns Lady Macbeth in a way. He does exactly the thing that Caesar and Brutus and Othello and Leontes does to their wives. They don't give their wives domestic intimacy. Lady Macbeth no longer knows of Macbeth's ambitions or his thoughts or his desires. She's not in the loop anymore. And so therefore she has the more passive role we're used to seeing Shakespearean wives having.